Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hey, welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. It's the 10th of October, 10/10/2014. If you're watching on Friday, October 10th, you can give us a call and ask us a question. We have Mr. Casper Leach, the father of marijuana television in America, so to speak, and Mr. John Cornett standing by to play tunes again. How are you doing, John?
Vote. Yes, I'm doing great.
Vote.
Paul. Vote.
Vote. We will be talking more about that shortly, and with videos and discussions about Measure 91 and why it's so wonderful. Just stay tuned as we bring on our infamous dancing cannabis leaves. There's no leaves. Now they tell me. You can make this sound, okay? That's okay. We should get something new. The leaves are getting old, aren't they?
I feel the force.
All right, well, there they are. But I still think we got to come up with something new here. I mean, we've been using those since the 90s. Gee. Well, one of the most exciting things that happened this week is that the New York Times editorialized on Monday, October 6th, that we should vote yes on marijuana legalization next month, November 4th, in the election for ballot initiatives here in Oregon, in Alaska, and, ironically, in Washington, D.C. Of course, I say hear, hear. So I'll read their editorial. The decision by California voters in 1996 to legalize medical marijuana produced a wave of similar initiatives around the country. Less than 2 decades later, over half the states allow at least limited medical use. Now it looks as though recreational use of the drug may follow the same path. In 2012, Washington State and Colorado legalized recreational marijuana. This November, voters in Alaska, Oregon, and the District of Columbia will decide whether to do the same, effectively disregarding the misguided federal ban on a drug that is far less dangerous than alcohol. Decades of arresting people for buying, selling, and using marijuana have hurt more than helped society, and minority communities have been disproportionately affected by the harsh criminal penalties of prohibition. Since Alaska, Oregon, and the District of Columbia already allow medical marijuana, taking the next step makes good sense. There are some differences in their proposed initiatives, but they are all worthy of passage. Alaska's ballot measure 2 would make the use and purchase of marijuana legal for those 21 and older, create a marijuana control board, and tax the drug at $50 per ounce wholesale. It's already legal for Alaskans to possess small amounts of marijuana in their homes, and surveys indicate that 18% of Alaskans smoke marijuana. Ballot Measure 2 would mean that Alaskans could buy it from a store instead of resorting to the black market. Oregon's Measure 91 would also set a minimum age of 21. It would give the Oregon Liquor Control Commission the power to regulate marijuana as it does alcohol and would direct it to review tax rates regularly. The tax initially set at $35 per ounce for flowers and $10 per ounce for leaves should allow for prices low enough to compete with street dealers. Since it's already extremely easy for adults in Oregon to obtain medical marijuana cards, almost 65,000 Oregonians have one. Of course, I don't like that sentence. But back to their editorial. Recreational legalization will not be a big change. As the Oregonian editorialized in August, the measure would, quote, be worth supporting for reasons of honesty and convenience alone, end quote. District of Columbia Initiative 71 would repeal all criminal and civil penalties for personal possession of marijuana and allow limited private cultivation of the drug. People 21 and older could grow up to 6 plants at home and give away up to 1 ounce. Because the District of Columbia Home Rule Act does not allow a tax to be imposed by referendum, Initiative 71 would not set up a mechanism for regulating retail sales of the drug. Opponents of legalization warn that states are embarking on a risky experiment, but the sky over Colorado has not fallen, and prohibition has proved to be a complete failure. It's time to bring the marijuana market out into the open and end the injustice and arrest and convictions that have devastated communities. Careful regulation of the drug could very well make it safer to consume, and proper taxation could bring in new revenue for states. This year, from January through June, Colorado collected about $18.9 billion. Ideally, the federal government would repeal the ban on marijuana so states could set their own policies without worrying about the possibility of a crackdown on citizens violating federal law. Even though a majority of Americans favor legalization, Congress shows no sign of budging. So it's better for the states to take the lead than wait for an epiphany on Capitol Hill that may never come. Again, that's an editorial from the Monday, October 6th, New York Times. You know, just this week, there have been a lot of developments for Measure 91. A $2 million+ ad campaign has started to run, featuring a 30+ year law enforcement veteran, and also travel author and guru and television host Rick Steves has toured the state. We have a little video that the Measure 91 campaign released earlier this evening. We're going to go ahead and run this about Rick Steves.
We are 2 days into our 10-city, 6-day barnstorming tour around Oregon, and as a traveler, I am really enjoying it. The natives are friendly, everybody speaks English, and we're learning about the importance of voting yes on Measure 91. Everybody, whether they agree with smoking pot or not, should recognize that if you care about children, if you care about fiscal responsibility, if you care about resources for law enforcement, if you care about civil liberties, you want to take the crime out of the equation and treat marijuana use, adult mature use, as a civil liberty, and to keep its abuse and misuse and use among minors as an education challenge and a health challenge.
I think the event went really, really well. I absolutely support it. I think it's smart, and I think, as Rick Steves said, we've learned a lot from the laws that were already passed in Washington and Colorado, and so this is an even smarter law. And I think it's time to take money out of the hands of criminals and actually legalize it. So
I believe it should be legal. I really strongly believe that it's not a gateway drug. It's not an issue. I'm not pro pot. It's more just pro humanity, really.
I think most people agree with the common sense of Measure 91. This is an off-year election. We need to get people out to the polls. This is important. The entire country, I believe, is counting on Oregon to join Washington and Colorado. So 5 years from now, when the United States in general drops this misguided prohibition against marijuana, they'll look back at the Pacific Northwest and they'll say, thank you.
All right. Great little production just released tonight by the Measure 91 campaign. They said to spread it far and wide. I just got back from Madison, Wisconsin. 48 Wisconsin medical patients this year got their Oregon medicinal cannabis authorizations at the annual during the annual Great Midwest Marijuana Harvest Fest. But wait, you may be thinking, they live in Wisconsin, not Oregon, and that's entirely true, but according to those in the know, having an out-of-state medical marijuana authorization gives patients in Wisconsin some legal cover should the police come calling. The authorizations were issued by our clinics, TACF Medical Clinics, as a part of a project, the Ben Mazzell Project. Ben Mazzell was a famous Yippie activist based in Madison who started the Great Midwest Marijuana Harvest Fest. He died suddenly from cancer about 3.5 years ago. The Oregon permit has saved several people in Wisconsin from arrest, and the fact that Oregon issues permits to out-of-state patients has been helpful to those in Wisconsin and a few other non-medical marijuana states. This weekend we helped 48 patients there in Wisconsin get Oregon medical marijuana permits, bringing in almost $10,000 in state fees for the Oregon Health Authority. Really, however, those funds should stay in Wisconsin, and the Wisconsin legislature should act to help its sick and dying patients. Keep those funds there. Speaking at the Great Midwest Marijuana Harvest Fest, this is the 44th annual event, and it's the oldest continuous medical marijuana protest in the United States. Back in the late 80s and early 90s. It was the largest marijuana protest in the United States, and I first spoke there back in 1989, come back many years since. But there's a fellow who's picked up the mantle for Ben Mazel, who's passed away, and been spearheading this Ben Mazel project. His name is Dennis Brennan, and I think we might have him on the phone. Do we have Dennis on the phone? No? No Dennis? Well, let me know if we get him on the line. Okay. Our next story is out of Naples, Italy. The administration of the non-psychotropic cannabinoid cannabigerol, or CBG, possesses potent anti-colon cancer activities and inhibits cancerous tumor growth, according to preclinical data published online ahead of print in the journal Carcinogenesis. Colorectal cancer is the third most widely form of cancer found in men and the second most common cancer in women worldwide. Italian researchers at the University of Naples assessed the effects of CBG on colon tumorigenesis in vitro and in vivo. Investigators reported that the compound promoted apoptosis, or cancer cell death, and reduced cell growth in colorectal cancer cells. CBG dosing also inhibited the experimental model growth of tumors in animals. The authors concluded, quote, "Our data show that the non-psychotropic cannabis ingredient CBG inhibits the growth of colorectal cancer cells and hinders the development and growth of colon carcinogenesis in vivo. We hypothesize that CBG may be a promising anti-colorectal cancer therapeutic agent, both for prevention and as a curative medicine," end quote. Cannabinoids and endocannabinoids have been shown both independently and adjunctively to possess anti-cancer activity in preclinical models, halting the proliferation of glioma cells or brain cancer, breast carcinoma, lung carcinoma, lymphoma, among other cancer cell lines. The text of this study, colon carcinogenesis, is inhibited by the antagonist cannabigerol, a cannabis-derived non-psychotropic cannabinoid. Appears in Carcinogenesis. Okay. A new law being considered in Morocco that would legalize marijuana cultivation for medical and industrial uses, finally bringing the North African Islamic nation's thriving hash industry into the open, is being proposed. The proposal, however, faces stiff opposition in the conservative nation, despite a centuries-old tradition of growing cannabis in the north, where the Rif Mountains have long been a center of hash production. Some farmers openly grow marijuana despite its illegal status. One grower said, quote, "We're regularly subject to blackmail by the gendarmes," end quote, he said as he prepared his September harvest. The new law could alleviate widespread poverty and unrest, but suspicious farmers accustomed to adversarial relationship with the government authorities don't believe the government will do anything to help them. The farmers fear that legalization might lower the already cheap price of $8 a kilogram that they receive for their product. Just imagine, good hashish for $8 a kilogram. Anyway, our next story is about the Basque Parliament. On Wednesday, they urged the Basque government in Spain to legalize and regulate the activity of open cannabis clubs and give legal support to marijuana cultivation for club members and collective consumption. The Basque Chamber is concluding 2 years of work on a study of the clubs with adoption of recommended solutions toward regulating them. The recommendations approved will place the Basque Country at the head of the regulation of these places in Spain and Europe. The Basque National Party and Socialist Party have all advocated toward taking these steps in regulating these cannabis clubs. Federal marijuana prisoner Randy Lanier, a 60-year-old and former race car driver, will be released from prison after serving 26 years of a life sentence at a high-security federal correctional complex in Coleman, Florida, for a 1988 conviction on leading a marijuana drug ring. U.S. District Judge Philip Gilbert has granted a motion by the federal government to reduce Lanier's life sentence and has approved his pending release. Earlier this year, U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder endorsed a proposal to reduce sentencing for convicted drug dealers while seeking to eliminate mandatory minimum sentences for nonviolent drug offenders. Stephen Ross, an attorney for former race car driver Lanier, said, quote, "He served his time with dignity and respect and help mentor young people in the prison system, end quote. The brief order issued by Judge Gilbert gives no reason for the sentence reduction. In addition to his life sentence, Lanier was given an additional maximum of 40 years on a distribution charge and another 5 years on an IRS fraud charge. Lanier's release comes with heavy restrictions, including drug and alcohol tests, no consumption of alcohol or patronizing establishments that sell it, no firearms, no lines of credit without approval from his probation officer. But we're happy to hear this life prisoner is getting out. Our final story tonight is also about the medicinal effects of cannabis. Out of Torrance, California, traumatic brain injury or TBI patients with a history of cannabis use possess increased survival rates compared to non-users, according to data published this month in the journal The American Surgeon. UCLA Medical Center investigators conducted a 3-year retrospective review of brain trauma patients. Data from 446 separate cases of similarly injured patients was assessed. Of those patients who tested positive for the presence of marijuana, 97.6% survived surgery. By contrast, patients who tested negative for the presence of cannabis prior to surgery possessed only an 88.5% survival rate. The authors of the study concluded, quote, "Our data suggest an important link between the presence of positive THC screens and improved survival after traumatic brain injury. This finding has support in previous literature because the neuroprotective effects of cannabinoids have been implicated in a variety of neurodegenerative diseases, such as Alzheimer's disease, Huntington's disease, and multiple sclerosis. With continued research, more information will be uncovered about the therapeutic potential of THC, and further therapeutic interventions may be established." The text of this study, The Effects of Marijuana Use on Outcomes in Traumatic Brain Injury, appears in this month's The American Surgeon. All right, that was a long newscast, but Mr. John Cornett standing by, ready to play some music, aren't you, John?
Yes, sir, I am.
Thank you.
You know, I'm just amazed. I think we need more education. We need more education about how cannabis can help people to overcome just a whole laundry list of malfeasance. Anyway, this is an old song by Little Feat. It goes like this. Been warped by the rain, driven by the snow, drunk and dirty, don't you know, I'm still willing. Well, I was out on the road late last night, seen my pretty Alice in every headline, said Alice, Alice. And I've been from Tucson to Tucumcari, to Hatchet, Tony Paul, driven every kind of rig that's ever been made, driven the back roads so wouldn't get wet. And if you give me sweet white sand wine, show me a sign, I'll be willing to be moving. By the wind, robbed by the sleet, had my head stove in, I'm still on my feet and I'm still willing. I was out on the road late last night, see my pretty Alice in every headline, I said Alice. Well, I smuggled some smoke, some folks from Mexico, got by the sun every time I go down to Mexico, but I'm still willing. And I've been from Tucson to Tucumcari, and Hatchet, Peter, Tony, Paul, driven every kind of rig that's ever been made, driven the back roads so wouldn't get wet. And if you give me weed, white sand, white, show me a sign, I'll be willing.
All right. That was a nice version of that
Thank
song.
you. Thank you very much.
Good work, John. John Cornett, he'll be back to close the show out too. Hey, how you doing, Casper?
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. How have you been?
Pretty groovy. How have your travels been?
They have been, I got to go to Wisconsin and help some patients as we covered. Did we have, I think we might have that phone call on. Is this Dennis? No, this isn't Dennis. Well, let's go ahead and take a call anyway. Since
Well, all right. Is there a call there?
Hello, call.
Hi.
Hey.
Yes, I am.
He is. I might be.
I'm wondering, I am on disability and Medicare, Medicaid, and I know that if it's legalized, I can get a percentage off, but I don't know how it's going to affect me with my low income.
Well, right now there's a medical marijuana program that has some discounts for people who are on a fixed income or disability. It can be as low as $20 if you're on SSI. If you get food stamps or disability, it's $60.
So
The Oregon Health Plan, it's $50. My office manager is feeding me the information.
and
Thank you, Ray.
for what is that?
There's a fee that has to be paid to the Oregon Health Authority to get a medical marijuana permit. And so it's $60 for people who are on disability and $50 for people on the Oregon Health Plan and $20 for people on Social Security Supplemental Security Income Program, or SSI.
I don't understand. Are you talking about a certain amount or?
Yeah, I'm
or-
saying that the State of Oregon Health Authority has a fee that they charge patients to issue a permit. And I was telling you the discounted prices because I thought that's what you were inquiring about.
Well, I'm wondering how much the marijuana will cost when I go to buy it.
That depends on where you buy it at. And I can't really answer that specific question. I think with Measure 91, legalizing it for everybody, as soon as that's implemented, we will be able to buy it at a fairly low price. I can foresee it being $3 or $4 a gram.
Okay. Okay, well,
The
thank you
tax
very much.
under-
You have a good night.
Thank you. We should talk a little bit about Measure 91.
Well,
But-
are you trying to indicate that my vote counts?
I think maybe it does because it's made a big difference for medical marijuana, for legalization. We got within 100,000 votes of winning 2 years ago here in Oregon, and it looks like it's the die is written on the wall.
Well,
There.
then, golly, tell me why I should vote for Measure,
Well,
81?
I think we've got Dennis Brennan on now. Is that right? No, it's not Dennis Brennan.
You really want this guy on your show?
I did. He asked me to call him, and so I was trying to
You want
get
me
him,
to
but-
be Dennis for you? I can go off
No,
stage and go,
no.
hi, this is Dennis, and I got a question.
No.
Well, all right.
You'd have
So-
to speak from Dennis's experience, but that's okay. But go ahead. Yeah, the reasons we should vote for Measure 91. That's what's really important here right
Okay.
now anyway, is that it will establish a tax on marijuana, as the New York Times editorialized earlier this week, of $35 an ounce. That's $1.25 a gram on high-quality marijuana flowers. And it will establish a tax of $10 an ounce much less than 50 cents a gram.
What's going to be
on
done with all that tax money?
leaf. It will go to the state schools
All right.
and to local state agencies.
And
But let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about the actual mechanics of this new legalization bill.
all right.
Right now, a number of counties have set up moratoriums on medical marijuana dispensaries. And so under Measure 91, a county or city that would want to ban marijuana stores will have to seek a vote of the people in the biennial election held every 2 years. And then if the city or county decided to ban the sale of marijuana in their community, then they wouldn't get any of that tax revenue that's generated by those governments. Also, Measure 91 will allow people to grow 4 plants and possess 8 ounces with no license. And if you pay a license fee of $1,250, then you can grow an unlimited amount of marijuana. And you can legally grow it, process it, and sell it, all for that one low license fee of $1,250.
Groovy.
So there will be just lots of mom and pop industries, a lot of opportunity. You get a license if you want to make concentrates. Of course, those are going to be regulated so that we don't see houses blowing up anymore. I don't like it when houses blow up in anyone's neighborhood, but especially not my own.
Well, it does add to the excitement to a dull night.
Well, I don't think so.
Well, all
it
right.
might add to the tragedy or something. But anyway, I foresee Measure 91 putting Oregon on the cutting edge of the marijuana industry. We will leapfrog ahead of both Washington with its exorbitant tax rate and criminal penalties for over an ounce, and not allowing people to grow any at all across the river in Washington State. And it will be much, much better in almost every way than the law in Colorado as well. So we want to urge people to vote yes on that. Let's see, I think we have a phone call. 3 phone calls standing by. Let's start with caller number 1. Welcome to the show.
Good day.
How are you?
I'm doing good. Actually, you kind of answered my question. My question was, if 91 passes, how many plants, or if we were actually going to be able to grow our own. So
yeah, we'll be able to grow
believe you just
4
said 4.
marijuana plants. And here are a couple of stems I harvested just this morning. If you grow 1 or 2 of these plants, it will last you a long time, let me tell you.
Yeah.
But you will be able to, these are just kind of trees. They're not quite as big around as that one. That one's pretty hefty. But yeah, you'll be able to grow 4 plants and legally possess 8 ounces. And if you want to grow or possess more than that, you can get a license to do so.
Now,
Kind of like a musical
I heard
instrument.
you talking about the license. Is that a one-time fee license? Or
No,
is
it's an
that
annual
something
license.
You'd have to pay every year.
You have to pay it every year. But medical patients pay $200 a year unless they have a discount because they're on disability or food stamps or SSI. They pay $200 a year. So that's just the equivalent of 6 patients' license fees. And with 6 patient license fees, you can only grow 6 plants each. So that's 36 plants, where for this, there's no limit as long as you legally abide by the law, which is if you're going to sell it, you got to collect the tax and pay the tax to the state and be subject to other regulations that I'm sure the Oregon Liquor Control Commission will develop over time in the administrative law process.
All right. Well, yeah, that answered my question then. Thank you very much, sir.
You're very welcome.
And
Have a
it's
good evening.
nice to see our state coffers fill up with tax dollars.
And, for such a reasonable tax, too. Right now, marijuana is selling for $20 to $30 a gram at some of the stores across the river in Washington. Under this proposal, I can see I would be able to sell marijuana legally for $3 a gram, or $4 at the most, So
Does this do anything for the hemp industry?
It does. It allows hemp farmers to start cultivating. And, of course, farmers can pay that $1,250 license fee and grow hemp, too, because that could be included in your, and it doesn't explicitly say that, but when you have a license and you're doing legal activity, once you've paid that $1,250 license fee, you could grow hemp. And I plan on doing that too, Casper.
Well, groovy, baby.
Groovy. Okay, we have a question or comment in the audience. Go right ahead.
It's a kind of a comment report and a desire to get your comments on
Okay.
it. You're talking about tax. That's why I got up. Just a couple of weeks ago, we went to a city council meeting in our small town because they had on the agenda, as some other towns that we know of have had, sales tax that they wanted
On the new medical
on
marijuana
the- right,
dispensaries,
even
and
though the
a
laws-
tax on the. Well, I think those taxes will be found to be unconstitutional. You just
Well-
have to challenge them in court. But unfortunately, they want to play that game.
We're really well aware that we had tremendous success. We had great reception in our town. There were a number of us that went and a number of us that spoke, and they voted on it right then, so we could see what was happening. I told them straight up I was ashamed of my town for trying to clearly subvert the intent of the new law. If that's to be the case. But they still
That's great.
wanted
Good work.
this idea of that maybe it can be grandfathered in somehow. And I wanted to encourage others to
And
stay
this is
on.
the same entity that banned dispensaries, isn't it?
Oh, well, the particular town I'm talking about.
Oh, it's a different town.
No, it's
Okay.
my town. It's a smaller town. It's not that particular town. No, my town is, but oh yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I forgot about that. Yeah, just a few weeks
Yeah,
ago. But
they
they are
banned
going to
dispensaries.
revisit it and not likely to keep it in place for a long
Hillsborough,
time.
our favorite place.
Yeah, but I just want to encourage other people to keep track of
Hillsborough.
what their town
Forest
is
Grove.
doing
Well,
and
those two.
go and participate and go and speak to their city councils to get them to not. So we were able to prevent our city council from passing a law to tax the medical side, although they still passed a law hoping to be able to grandfather it in to tax the recreational or social side
Well,
of it.
a lot of people don't realize how effective going and lobbying your lawmakers and city council and even the state legislature can be. I can remember the first time I went into an Oregon public legislative hearing down in Salem about enhancements of the drug law back when I was just 24 in 1984. And I stood up and I said, I'm against this provision of that law. And the legislator stood up and they erased it off the board. And that was all it took, was me saying, I'm against that. Okay, we're going to erase it. That's not part of it anymore. So you can be very effective if you go in and, show your opposition or support for various bills out there. We have several phone callers standing by. Let's take another call. Hello, caller.
Yeah, this is Mark Johnson.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. I appreciate what you guys are doing and legalizing the marijuana, and I've used it for like 20 years in the past, and I went to college and got straight A's, so it never hurt my brain cells. So
Yeah, it protects your brain cells, We
Exactly.
used to think it hurt our brain cells. That's what they said. Like alcohol, they thought. But
they
in
told
fact,
me back in high
protects
school
your
that,
brain cells.
if you use it, you lose your ability to function and all that kind of stuff and be smart, and I didn't see any problems. I actually got through really easy in college, so yeah.
All right.
I think it's excellent what you guys are doing, though, and hopefully this is going to pass for us. I'm sure it will. So.
All right, well, get out there, register to vote. We just have until the 14th, next Tuesday, to register to vote. So if you're not registered to vote or you haven't received a ballot in the mail sometime in the past year, then you need to go out and re-register to vote. You can do that online, actually, just by going to the Oregon Secretary of State's website.
Okay, yeah, definitely. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for calling.
Take care, Paul.
How are you, Casper? I've been just kind of
Pretty
talking
groovy.
my head off.
No, I'm just all excited about how politics are in the state. I didn't realize that how
We'd
easy
see this in our lifetime.
and how easy it is to run for governor.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you don't even have to be a citizen of the United States. You can get a marriage of convenience, see the person 3 times, and then be a citizen and then run for the governor. That is so cool.
Okay. Yeah. So you're talking about the governor's fiance and her,
Former wife.
well, no, not former. She's engaged to
Oh.
be married to the governor.
Oh.
But that's for another. That's not marijuana.
No, but I just think it's interesting to watch it play out.
Yeah, and he opposes. Governor Kitzhaber has come out opposing Measure 91.
He's also opposed marriages of convenience.
And he had me arrested. That's what I was told. He had me arrested on a bogus tax charge. So, Governor John Kitzhaber, you're no friend of ours. Time to get out of town. Anyway, I don't like the Republican candidate, though, so.
But is the Democrat candidate pro?
It's Kitzhaber. He's running again. But he opposes medical marijuana, and as a doctor, he goes against all the science and opposes medical marijuana. And he looks at our TV show and punishes me for talking about him.
So is he a real doctor then? I mean, how
He's
could
a
a
real
real
doctor.
doctor do that?
He's just he's trying to stay in the closet for his past cannabis use.
That's like being a real.
He's trying to hide the fact that he used to be a stoner, you know. But
that's like saying you're an astronomer, but the sun doesn't exist.
yeah. We have more callers. Let's take another call. Hello, caller.
Hi, Paul. It's Dennis Brennan. How you doing?
There you are. How are you,
Yes.
Dennis? Well, as I tried to bring you on at the beginning of the news story when we talked about the Ben Mazzell project, you've been spearheading that and the Great Midwest Marijuana Harvest Fest, haven't you, sir?
Yes, I have for the last few years.
So tell us more.
Okay, well, the Harvest Fest this year was a little screwy, but it came out beautiful. We had 2,000 people with a police escort marching us up to the Capitol. It was very irie. You got up at the top. We had great speakers. We celebrated the women in cannabis. And while we were doing all this, Paul was helping 48 people get their medical marijuana card through the Ben Mazzell Project and THC clinics.
And you started this Ben Mazzell project. It actually, a couple of pretty famous patients in Wisconsin, Gary Stork and Jackie Rickert, along with the late, great Ben Mazzell, came to Oregon and got their Oregon medical marijuana permits themselves. Then the idea came how they were helping patients. And you
Ben did. I know when we found out about being able to do it, Gary and Jackie went out. And I'm not sure if Ben did or not, but then Ben and I started working on for me to get my card. So I came out about a year later or so and met you.
Yeah, you were on our show.
2 years later, yeah.
Yeah.
But I know Gary and Jackie were the first two.
Yeah, and then there have been a couple of patients, activists there in the Wisconsin community who recently benefited from having that card.
Yes. There was the Fighting Bob Fest, which is a big political fest in Baraboo, Wisconsin. And there was an incident where there was cannabis on a couple of patients. And they used the law from 1972 here in Wisconsin in our Constitution with doctor's orders. And one of the patients had the Oregon card. And the Oregon card really put a whole different feel with the police, towards everybody. By having
and there was a court ruling that said if you have a doctor's recommendation, then you're exempt from prosecution.
Yes.
So that
it's
was
hard to have that recommendation in a state that doesn't necessarily consider cannabis legal.
Yeah.
So
Now you're working. You just put up a big billboard calling out a couple of state legislators for not supporting medical marijuana. And I know you had two different state representatives speaking at the Great Midwest Marijuana Harvest Fest this last weekend. You want to talk about Melissa Sargent and Chris Taylor?
Yeah, Melissa Sargent and Chris Taylor are Madison Assembly people. Chris Taylor has picked up the Jackie Rickert bill with Senator Erkenbach, and they've been
that's a
trying
medical
to get
marijuana bill.
Onto the floor, which is a really good medical marijuana bill. And we have a problem here in this state where we don't have really constituent referendum. Everything has to go through the Assembly and the Senate. And we have a stall with the medical marijuana. So we did a rally.org, and raised $7,500 to put a billboard right in two legislators' district, right on the busiest area of Wisconsin, that says Wisconsin residents don't have access to medical marijuana. Ask us why, and it's a silhouette of each senator and their phone numbers.
All right.
So
So hopefully those senators get lots of calls about why isn't medical marijuana legal in Wisconsin.
That's basically
sure they
what
are.
we're trying to do. They say they aren't getting that much, that it's not an important subject. Well, there's thousands of people here in the state that believe it is important, and we're trying to save our lives. So we're doing whatever we can.
Well,
Like,
last weekend I had the great honor of going there to Madison, Wisconsin. I'm glad you were able to get that call through. We look forward to coming back to next year's 45th annual Great Midwest Marijuana Harvest Fest, and hopefully it will continue to grow.
All right, and thank you, Paul, for all the help you've given us. We appreciate it. It was great seeing you this year.
Hey, it was great seeing you. You got to get out here to Oregon sometime. Thanks for calling today.
Yeah, I'll be out soon. All right. Take
All right.
care.
So that's why I wanted to get him on. He wanted to plug what he was working on. Another caller. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hi.
Howdy.
I got a question about, I know people go to jobs and stuff, and then they, everything's fine and stuff, and they get hurt on the job, and all at once, the minute somebody gets hurt, they give them a drug test. And now, since this is getting passed by anybody can smoke marijuana and stuff like that, what's going to happen,
Well, they put in a specific, I sat in on, 20 or 30 of these meetings at Schwabe, Williamson, and Wyatt, and at the ACLU of Oregon's office. And, it was developed, and they made a definite decision not to change worker safety laws so the laws regarding worker safety remain the same. However, I believe with new testing methods, we'll be looking at actual impairment and at the active level of THC in a person's blood, rather than the amount of metabolites in their urine, which simply shows past use, not current levels of use. So, but the law does not affect workplace safety regulations; those will remain the same.
So, it just seems like there's a tool where you don't, where they don't have to pay your doctor bill.
Yeah, it's something against workers. There's no doubt. Again, if I was the lawmaker, I would definitely try to protect patients who aren't impaired on the job, and their job workplace safety rules and ability to access medical care when injured. I think that's the way to do it. We've got the backing on Measure 91 of the United Food and Commercial Workers Union, and so they're going to continue to fight for workers' rights in using medical cannabis.
Yeah, these people I knew, got, in trouble. They weren't smoking on job. They just had it in their system.
Right.
Yet, it saved the company paying their doctor bill. That's what it boiled down to. Hey, you could be smoking that night or 2 days before that.
Or 30 days in some cases with THC. It actually stays in your system that long. But thanks for your phone call.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The phones are busy tonight. Let's take another caller. Hello, caller.
Hi, Paul.
Howdy.
Hi, Casper.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. Just a little bit more on this taxing and like that. All these little cities and counties that are implementing tax laws against it, right? When it becomes a law, and
then they won't be able to do it on their own. They will be forced to put it up to a vote of the people. And if the people vote to not allow medical marijuana sales in their communities, then they don't get the revenue. Now, on the other issue, I think, in thinking about what you said, you're actually addressing is the cities and counties that are trying to impose these extra taxes before the law's even passed.
So if they go to get them grandfathered in, obviously if they lose, they're going to challenge it in court. Will this hinder the implementation of the law?
I don't think so.
In the timeline.
There will be continue to be all kinds of court cases around it. Winning this election opens up a whole new set of challenges and issues. And so, but it's a lot better than continuing to
Washington?
throw people in jail.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Thanks for your call. I guess a lot of people are interested in Measure 91. We're happy to represent on behalf of the actual folks who are behind it. But thank you. Go ahead. We have another caller. Welcome to the show, caller.
Excuse me. Can you ask those questions like how often can I take it? Will I know how much I should smoke to relieve the pain? And can I drive on it?
Okay. To start with your last question, you should not drive on marijuana. And there are laws in place that don't allow people to drive on marijuana. Now that said, if you smoke marijuana, the effects last from 1 to 4 hours. So there's that window of 1 to 4 hours after which you shouldn't drive. If you eat cannabis, it can last longer, but also you could take a low enough dose where you wouldn't feel the effects whatsoever. In that case, you are not impaired and you can continue to operate a motor vehicle. Now, the amount you need to take changes according to the way you're taking it. If you're smoking it, 1 or 2 little puffs might be enough, where if you eat it, you can eat too much. You have to be very careful and find the best dose with the lowest adverse reactions for your particular condition. And everybody's different. We all have a different genetic or genomic profile, and so it affects different people differently.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but are you telling me about the CBD?
No,
strain?
CBD is not psychoactive whatsoever. So if you're just
was
taking a pure CBD product, you don't have to worry about driving. And
that's what I want, because when I smoke it, when my son gives it to me for my pain, or lets me smoke some from whatever, however he's taken it, it helps. But I just sit and I can fall asleep. I mean, it would be
Sure.
great for me to take it at night and go to sleep.
Yeah.
But during the day, I don't. I want to be able to do the.
And you know, different kinds of cannabis have different effects. So the CBD strong kinds might not get you high at all. The sativa varieties might actually wake you up a little, where the more indica varieties might put you to sleep, but that's a generalization.
Yeah, okay. Now, how would I find out about that? I just have to experiment with them. Well, I guess I'm interested.
Well, you know, as more and more, you once you have a permit, you go into these dispensaries and you ask them what they recommend, and kind of experiment and find the right dose for yourself. That's right.
Okay.
That's what we have now. But I think with the legalization measure passing, in a few years, a lot of this will be standardized, and you won't have to answer these questions. Your doctors will be able to help you with that.
And that's not much different, though, when you're...
Now, at you guys' office, the 235, are you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay, the 235 number, do you guys have an office over there on Sandy? I know there's a couple.
Yeah,
of
and that's a political office. The 503-235-4606 is the office of our political committee campaign for the restoration and regulation of hemp. But our clinic office is over on 18th Avenue, just off of Burnside. And the way to call that is at that number on your screen. If you're here in the Portland area, it's 503-281-5100. And if you're anywhere in the United States and you're looking for medical marijuana doctors, as you heard, I was in Wisconsin last week, and I'm going to be in New York City by this time tomorrow night. And so we help people all over the country get medical marijuana permits. You can call us toll free at 1-800-723-0188.
723-0188?
Yep, that number, it's right there on your screen.
Oh, now it is. Okay.
It's been changing around.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to catch up to it.
All right, well, we thank you for your phone call. I hope I was able to answer your question.
Oh, yes, I love watching you guys. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. So what was that? We have 2 more calls? Wow. Okay, go ahead. Call. We don't usually have this many calls, but, you know, we've got an election coming. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hi, Paul. How are you tonight?
Very well. How are you?
Those logs in front of you.
They are.
Take to grow those, and how tall?
I took cuttings for these in January. They rooted in February. Put them outside in May. Cut them down this morning at about 5 or 6 a.m. And they were 11 to 12 feet tall.
11 to 12 feet. That's amazing.
Ready.
That's solid wood there, isn't it?
That is. Just think how many pieces of paper and building materials and canvas and rope and lace and linen we could make with this stuff.
And you can also burn that in your fireplace.
Yeah, well, it's a little green now. It'll shrink as it dries, too. And, of course, we also have, you gave me a perfect segue into our show and tell, chocolate-covered hemp seeds. Boy, do they taste good. Hemp protein powder. Very good for you. Hemp twine, and a piece of hemp twine is the wick in our hemp flame for freedom. This is the whole reason marijuana is illegal, because hemp is the natural solution to our energy crisis. It will give farmers all the money that's going into energy, the world's largest industry, and that money will go into our farmers' pockets and our communities instead of Exxon and Mobil and the Saudi sheiks and Nigerian despots and their Swiss bank accounts. The farmers will get it in our community and spend it there. We will be driving our car on hemp seed oil and printing our paper on hemp paper and building our buildings out of hemp materials when it's legal.
All right. Well, thanks again.
One more thing. My friend, Michigan's own Captain Kirk, sent me this nifty plaque, and he's been a guest on this show. He's won 3 awards now from High Times Magazine for his Captain Kirk's Key Lime Cheesecake.
Say that 10 times fast.
I'm not going to do that. But you can see he has signed it right up here. Thanks, Paul, Captain Kirk. Right down here, I helped him give 3 of his cakes to Willie Nelson. So he had Willie Nelson sign this. And again, it's saying, thanks, Paul, Willie Nelson. So here's a little show and tell item. It'll go into our museum collection. All right. Let's see about one more phone call. Welcome to the show, caller.
Good evening, gentlemen. I have kind of a goofy question. I have a medical marijuana card, but I have a line on a job, and I need to know if you can tell me how to pass a P test, please.
Okay. There's a substance called golden seal root extract that you can get at health food stores. And you get this little vial of golden seal root extract, and it's a diuretic. It will block your cell's ability to excrete material. And so you take a very unpleasant tasting dose of 3 or 4 dropperfuls of this golden seal root extract, and you drink copious, large amounts of beverages. And you begin to urinate, and you urinate just before you go into the job so that if you have to pee test, the urine created has been created in a very short period of time when your cell walls aren't excreting material. And because of the diuretic effect of golden seal root extract. Just don't take golden seal root extract very often because you build up a tolerance to it after a few days.
Okay, so before the job interview, do this a couple of hours beforehand?
Yeah, that's what and your mileage may vary. I can't guarantee that will work. They're constantly changing these drug tests. They have hair tests. They have all kinds of things. But, this isn't the land of the free anymore. It's the land of the pee, So hopefully with Measure 91 passing, the changing marijuana laws, we will be free of this degrading, humiliating process of giving our bodily fluids for testing.
It's getting to the point where everyone might need to get a colonoscopy just to get a job.
What I've said is I'm the only drug test, urine test they'll get from me is a taste test. And that's pretty disgusting.
Yep.
So I'm not doing that.
No, I don't blame you. Yeah. I love your guys' show. Thank you for all your information and your entertainment value as well. And thank you so much for the information. I hope I get this job.
Good luck. I'm sorry you have to go through that. I wish you the best.
Thanks so much.
Okay. Boy, we're about out of time. It's been a fast hour. What have you got to say for yourself, sir?
Please check out timeforhemp.com and all of the broadcasts that's found there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. many great hosts, lots of great music, information about the need to end prohibition. We are the only all-cannabis broadcasting network on iHeartRadio. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is time for hemp. Oops, that was a shameless plug. Sorry.
Okay. Well, I'll put in a shameless plug yet again for Measure 91 because we need to pass this law. You know, we came very close 2 years ago. We could have joined Washington, California, and be light years ahead of them now. But Measure 91 will leapfrog Oregon ahead of Washington and Colorado and make Oregon the center of this exciting new cannabis industry, the exciting new hemp industry, and other exciting new freedom-based things. So please register to vote. You have until Tuesday the 14th. Don't let your opportunity go by. You need to register and vote yes on Measure 91 because it will make the world a better place. And we want to thank all those folks who worked so hard on getting it up there for a vote and urge you to register, vote, get your family and friends to register and vote. We're going to go out another great song by Mr. John Cornett. Thank